Oh, I was saying, and then there was one.
Then there was one. Stella R. Let's bring in Stella. Stella, how you doing?
Hello.
Hey. Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right, cool stuff. Stella?
Thank you for having me. First, I just wanted to say thank you for all your lore videos. I really didn't care about the lore of this game until I started watching you at the start of Shadowlands.
Oh, I love hearing that, because if I can get more people to care about the lore, Blizzard starts spending more time on the story, and I get happier. So, my dream is to convert all WoW players into lore fanatics, where they just go, "Who gives a fuck about raiding? More story, please." And then we just get like full blown story, and no one cares about anything else. So I'm very happy to hear that.
You definitely converted me to a Sylvanas and Old Gods fan for sure.
Thank you. That means a lot.
I have two questions. One's kind of out there, the other's a little closer.
Okay.
For the first one, so the Emerald Dream is sort of a representation of life on Azeroth, like a separate realm that represents her connection to life.
Mm-hmm.
Could the Shadowlands actually be a sort of Emerald Dream-like realm for death that's not a part of the realms of death, but is actually a different layer of Azeroth, as well as Nyalotha being the void version of that? So sort of Shadowlands is the death version of the Emerald Dream. Nyalotha is the void version of the Emerald Dream. And they're both part of Azeroth, not the Cosmic Forces.
So you touch on a pretty interesting bit of speculation that I've had. Like, I've made a few videos on this already, sort of alluding to this idea. The Shadowlands does not operate correctly. I'm not going to bring out paint again, because that's usually how I explain it. And it always ends with the penis tower that is Oribos. The fact is, if you look at the Shadowlands,
that's a shame.
It's not functioning, right? It just literally isn't functioning. Not the way that you would expect death to work. It has erectile dysfunction. That is true.
It's fundamentally broken. I mean, Denuser said it himself. The Shadowlands, as we see it, is not how it was supposed to be.
Yeah. So here's what I will say. The Titans are the ones that claim the Shadowlands as part of the cosmological force of death, right? Because their map shows us that the Shadowlands is part of the cosmological forces of death. Their map also shows us that the Shadowlands isn't part of the cosmological force of death, because if you look at their map, Shadowlands sits on the other side of Azeroth to where the Emerald Dream sits, and both of them are fundamentally connected to Azeroth. The Titans also mysteriously, in the Chronicles, do not tell us what is in the Shadowlands. They just say no one knows, as if no one is allowed to look. No one is allowed to know, because the Shadowlands wasn't meant to be. Now, go into the Shadowlands, what do we find? What's the first thing we see within the Shadowlands? We see Titan structures. Oribos immediately stands out as, that's not right. That's not right. Why does this giant facility that seems to be in the middle of all things look exactly like a Titan facility? It looks like something the Titans would construct. So here's my theory. The Titans arrive on Azeroth and they find the Black Empire. This, not good, right? Not good at all. The Black Empire creates a problem, because Azeroth is where all life starts in the universe. That's why the Emerald Dream appears to be an Azeroth-only thing. Like, when we were on Draenor, there's no speak of a perfect blueprint of Draenor. We never went into the Emerald Dream of Draenor, so to speak. The Emerald Dream appears to be very uniquely tied to Azeroth herself, and it's meant to be the perfect uncorrupted version of Azeroth, and this is where re-origination would draw from. So if the Titans ever wanted to re-originate, they would use the Emerald Dream as the blueprint to recreate after the re-origination. I don't think this is entirely true. I think Azeroth, in her dreams, she was dreaming life, but it was chaotic. It was infinitely chaotic. The problem was that her dreams were bringing forth things like faceless ones, things like old gods, things like elemental lords fighting and chaos. And the Titans, not liking this idea, decided, no, we'll create the dream, but we won't create it. Because remember, the Titans don't actually have a word that just means create. The Titans' word for create is also, coincidentally, their word for order. It's the same word. So when the Titans say that they created the Emerald Dream, it was Aeonor that created the dream. She didn't create shit. She simply took Azeroth's dream and then ordered it to make sure that none of these wild beings would be created within the dream and then just come into existence. So they basically restricted Azeroth's dream to be only that dream. This is why Naltharion claims in Dawn of the Aspects the Titans will pay for what was done to Azeroth. He very specifically says Azeroth, and I don't think he means, the Titan facilities. I think he means that they purposefully enslaved Azeroth in a manner of speaking.
See, I'm kind of wondering if, like, when the Titans arrived originally, if they threw up veils and sort of split parts of Azeroth's power, and that's what created the Shadowlands and the Emerald Dream and Nyalotha, and possibly ones for the other forces. That's sort of just them splitting away Azeroth's power so that they can then chain her physical body.
Yeah, I could see that as a definite hypothesis and a way in which they did this, because I think that's exactly how they managed to create both the Shadowlands and the Emerald Dream, is by tying it to Azeroth. If I'm correct, Azeroth is Azathoth of the World of Warcraft universe. So Azeroth, all life on Azeroth exists as a result of Azeroth, or in the Great Beyond exists as a result of Azeroth. They then tied the whole realm, the whole Great Beyond, to Azeroth, and through Azeroth's dream, they then connected the Shadowlands. This is why there is a back door into the Shadowlands through Ardenweald. Because with there's a back door into the Emerald Dream through Ardenweald and into the Shadowlands through the Emerald Dream towards Ardenweald. Because the dream spans all planets within the Great Beyond. So that already took care of that problem. Now, the Titans don't quite have the ability to create a realm that would span the whole Great Beyond. The Great Beyond is too large. But all they needed to do was piggyback off of the Emerald Dream, because that had already connected all of the realms in the Great Beyond. So now, on any other planet in the Great Beyond, souls enter the Emerald Dream, and through the Emerald Dream, they are then connected into the Shadowlands. This is how they gain their sort of their control over the cycle, and this also allows them to entirely circumvent the natural system, because the natural system, souls that die would die for good. That's what the system was was supposed to do. The souls would have to die for good. The problem for the Titans is that's not ordered. That's chaotic. You can't plan around that. It's far easier if you have a closed loop system where souls can get recycled and the anima can be used. I genuinely think you're onto something there.
As a little side note to it, can you think of any representation of an Emerald Dream Shadowlands-like realm tied to Azeroth for the other three forces, for light, disorder, and the other one I can't remember.
So I think I think each of them will have some kind of realm. I do think so. But not in the way. So we know that the Twisting Nether have worlds in it. We know that there are worlds in it because Kalia and Terralion were actually spending time in the Twisting Nether attacking demon strongholds. So we know there's worlds there. We don't exactly know what those worlds are or what they look like, but we know that they're there.
You mean Illyria, not
Sorry,
Kalia.
Kalia. Illyria, yeah.
Yeah.
Illyria and Terralion. They were spending time in the Twisting Nether attacking demon worlds.
Didn't they spend 10,000 years doing that?
Yeah, it's a fucking long time. But remember, in the Twisting Nether, it doesn't really matter. Time is super different there. But yeah, so I would say, I don't think we actually saw the Realms of Death. That's the only way Blizzard can salvage this. Even if Blizzard's original plan was to have the Shadowlands be the actual Realms of Death, the reception of the player base with the Shadowlands means that Blizzard does have this sort of back door where they can go, oh, never mind. What you guys saw was simply the Titans' sort of attempt at circumventing the story or the cycle. So the Titans didn't like the fact that death was where souls went, because that means all of that anima is just lost. So why not just build a realm that captures all of that anima and then just naturally removes it, or naturally recycles it? That might be why Bastion also exists. The fact that you specifically need a force to grab souls, because remember, all of this is built like a natural system. The first ones created a very natural system. And this would mean that the first ones surely would have thought about this system and say, all right, so when a soul dies, this soul needs to go to death because that's the system that we've created. It would just naturally go towards death. Well, if you want to circumvent that, you build a force like the Kyrians, and they intercept those souls before they can enter the natural soul stream, and instead you throw them into the other realms of death, the new realms that you've now sort of invented. And I genuinely think that's exactly what it was meant to be. And I think this is a backdoor that Blizzard can use to sort of completely erase Shadowlands as a canonical death. And instead, it is just a Titan creation, so to speak.
Which, that combined with the 7 forces, the one outside thing, kind of has me thinking there that if Azeroth were to have the power of all 6 cosmic forces, including her own death realm and life realm, that kind of makes me think of like an invading force setting up a beachhead. And then the Titans came in and tried to compromise that by ordering it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It all depends on how we view Azeroth to be. What exactly is Azeroth? But if I'm correct, and Azeroth is indeed, as you said, the amalgamation of all of the 6, then it naturally speaking, Azeroth was meant to rule over the 6. The Titans didn't like that. They instead wanted to rule over the 6 themselves, because as the whispers go, 6 mouths, 6 around the table, 6 mouths hungering, one will devour them all. So these 6 mouths...
Maybe Azeroth is the table.
Yeah, well, Azeroth is... Yeah, you're probably right. Azeroth is the table, and they're all sitting there trying to consume everything, whereas Azeroth is the actual prize. So it is entirely possible that if we are correct, then everything the Titans have done so far have simply, if we say... how would we put this? It's destroyed what the natural order of things were like to be.
And so it also kind of has me wondering, it seems like the Twisting Nether might actually be another realm like the Emerald Dream for Azeroth, because they did mention that there are basically whole worlds created in the Shadowlands.
Yeah.
So if the Shadowlands can be that large, why not the Twisting Nether?
Well, so far, all we know about the Twisting Nether is what the Titans have told us, right? The Titans claim that the Twisting Nether is a creation of the light and the void clashing, and that the foul really is just the children of the light and the void. The in-between is massive. The in-between where the Shadowlands is, that's a massive realm. The Great Beyond is massive. There is a very good chance that each one of these realms are absolutely insanely large and probably almost constantly expanding. So it is about as large as it needs to be to house whatever they need it to house. So it is infinite in a way, like true infinite, not mathematically infinite, but truly infinite. It all boils down to the Xerath Realms. Like, that's the thing that bothers me most about the whole thing. Because the Xerath Realms makes sense for some of the cosmological forces, but not for all. So the Xerath Realms make sense for the Shadowlands, right? Death, Xerath Realm.
Yeah.
It makes sense for the light. It makes sense for life, and it makes sense for order. It makes no sense for void, and even less sense for disorder. Because
See, I kind of don't view the Xerath Realms as the product of the power, but more a sort of lock to control that power.
Yeah.
So viewing Azeroth as a sort of invading force, she set up a beachhead. She spread out her realms like the Twisting Nether and the Shadowlands, almost like the creep that Zerg have in StarCraft.
Okay.
And that the Xerath Realms were established by the First Ones or whoever as a sort of frontline defense, trying to contain the invading forces of Azeroth, forming a prison with dedicated sections to the different powers Azeroth is wielding.
Very good catch there, because we're thinking along the exact same lines. The Xerath Realms, like I said, makes no sense for disorder and shadow, and you just caught that, because the Xerath Realms are meant to establish order. But how the fuck can you have order establish chaos? Because the Twisting Nether is all about disorder. So how is it that the very thing that creates the beings within the Twisting Nether, that creates the order, happens to be inside a realm that is meant to resemble disorder? But it does make sense if this was a circumvention of its original system. So in other words, the Xerath Realms were actually meant to crush the disorder within the Twisting Nether, not meant to just be the realms in which the chaos spawns from. And the same would be true for the Void.
A sort of shield. Yeah, a sort of shield that's attuned to that specific power.
Yeah. And of course, we can argue that there's a good chance that the Twisting Nether won their war over their own Xerath realm, so they destroyed that Xerath realm, and the Void perhaps destroyed their Xerath realm as well, which is why they seem to be the only two forces that invades consistently into the Great Beyond. Because they have broken through, and they are trying to break the hold that the Titans have over the galaxy. They're trying to break that system. And you have order, light, and life, most likely, trying to sustain the system. So basically trying to exclude disorder and void from the system.
Which kind of makes you wonder, if the Xerath Realms for order, life, and light were broken, would we see a more Azeroth-aligned faction within those forces? Like maybe that version, Azeroth's Soldiers of Order, are being suppressed by Xerath Ordis.
It's possible, but it's also possible that those realms were simply natural occurrences, because you did catch on to a very interesting thing there with the brokers can't figure out whether Azeroth was the last or the first, because they do say from 1, 6 became, right, and then a 7th force shows up, but what they don't understand is the 7th force that they see showing up the first force or the 7th force? All they know is that it is a fractal of the 6. Now, if we go and we say that the 6 came from the 1, then it suggests that these are very natural places and they don't necessarily have soldiers. The first ones creating the Xerath Realms created the soldiers within these realms. So, for example, the only reason the Xerath beings in the Twisting Nether became the demons is due to the nature of the Twisting Nether. Because the Twisting Nether is infinitely chaotic, the Xerath Realm, as the first one set it up, spits out these constructs, and these constructs are meant to bring order to the Twisting Nether. The Twisting Nether, in fact, works on these constructs, turns them into demons, into beings of disorder, and the Xerath Realm loses its control over the realm. So these realms are far more natural than what we would otherwise sort of envision them. So they're not actually filled with soldiers or meant to be forces that Azeroth can use to her advantage, but rather rules that was laid down. Right, so these are the rules of the universe. You need all 6 of these forces in order to create a universe, and that's how they exist. The first ones were the ones that tried to order these forces, and that's the beings that we see now. The Void had the same effect on their constructs, because the Void is an endless empty space that just sucks all energy out of you. As these constructs left the Xerath, what's that Xerath realm called again for Void? Umbra. Xerath Umbra. As Xerath Umbra spat out these beings of power, their souls were absorbed by the Void, and instead what they became were Void creatures of the Void, so devoid of soul, because of the realm, the nature of the realm. The first ones could not foresee that some of these realms would just not be hospitable to their version of order, so to speak.
Right. Which it seems like the first ones are strangely orderly for beings that would seemingly be neutral.
Yeah, they are. But this is where, again, we start asking questions. Like, sadly, still perspective-based, because that's all we have in WoW right now. But 2 forces in the beginning, 1 force left on the outside, the other force would become the 1, that would become the 3, and then the 6, and then the 7. What if the first ones, up until now, I've sort of always operated on the idea that the Void is actually the force that was left on the outside. But what if the first ones was the force that was left on the outside? And they then invaded the galaxy that the first force created and tried to order it, so to speak. So
like Azeroth was all of the forces. Yeah. She was the core of it, the origin, all of it. And then the first ones came in as the outside force, built the Xerath Realms to try to push her back. But then the demons, the Disorder and Void managed to break through.
Yeah, that would be my read on it, at least. If we're going full-blown, like, balls to the wall speculation, that would be my read on it.
Which some of this kind of leads into my other question, though it's a bit more out there. We've been looking for a Pantheon for Disorder. And thinking back to the Black Empire and to the role that the elements had there, and the fact that they have this weird immortality.
Yep.
I kind of wonder if possibly the Elemental Lords are actually the Pantheon of Disorder. And also playing into Sargeras coming in and taking over the demons. Well, he would have known that the Pantheon of Disorder was taken out because the Titans are the ones that imprisoned them on the elemental planes of Azeroth. Maybe even using Azeroth's power as their means of overcoming how they would be an equal force being another Pantheon.
So I don't quite agree with that, and there's a reason for it. One of it is Denuser. The other is a bit more speculation based. Denuser said that you can think of the elemental forces as the primal magics of the universe, right? And then you can think of the cosmological forces as the higher magics of the universe. So that right there suggests that the primal energies, so the elemental energies, aren't connected in any way to, or in a fundamental way, to the cosmological forces. They may have elements of them within those cosmological forces, but they aren't connected to them. I personally, to sort of get into a speculation bit here, Sargeras spends the first, we don't know how long, because the Chronicles don't actually give us a time frame, but Sargeras' role within the Pantheon of Order is to find demon worlds and to kill the demons. That's his job, right? And he does this job highly proficient. He's very good at it, destroying all of these realms, or all of these demons. He then realizes that the demons keep coming back. This is a massive problem, and eventually he builds a prison world in order to stop the demons from respawning. The problem with this is they say that he figured all of this out, but it's not obvious to me. All right, yeah, Sargeras. So Sargeras spends all of this time basically killing demons, but none of this makes sense to me. Have you seen the size of Sargeras versus any fucking demon? They're like ants.
He wouldn't even notice them.
Yeah, he would. Like, it would be so easy for him to kill it. How could he possibly figure out that he's fighting the same ones over and over again? Most demons look basically exactly the same. They look exactly the same. So what, did he stop to ask them their names? It doesn't make sense. Unless what the Titans told us isn't true. Unless what the Titans told us is only half of the story. Because what would make sense for a being such as Sargeras to go around spending the first how many thousands of years of his life killing demons was if he wasn't killing demons so much as killing demon lords. So actually taking out the Pantheon of Disorder. That might be why we've never seen a Pantheon of Disorder.
Actually, this kind of leads me to another thought.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really seen a Pantheon for the Void either. There's the speculation with the Void Lord, but I kind of wonder, going off of the idea that the Xerath Realms are sort of prison constructs that the Void and the Disorder have broken free from.
Yeah.
Could it be that their breaking free means they don't have a Pantheon? That the Pantheons are that sort of imprisoning, invading force, not natural. And that once it's broken down, the realm sort of reclaims that power.
I mean, it's possible, but I would argue, I would argue that for the most part, the Pantheons. So the Pantheon of the Shadowlands. This again goes back to your first question: is the Shadowlands actually the realms of death? And if you believe like me that no, it isn't, then it suggests that the beings, the eternal ones that we saw in the Shadowlands, aren't actually the Lords of Death. The Lords of Death is a natural occurrence within those realms. So every single one of those realms have their naturally occurring lords. Or if you believe that the Xerath Realms created these lords, then the Pantheon, the Lords of Chaos or the Lords of Disorder, they would have been corrupted in the same way that the demons were corrupted. They would have been corrupted by the Twisting Nether to truly become this pantheon. The only reason we've never heard of them, because we know that the light must have something, because the Naru must serve something. The Naru isn't just there. They seem to have a very unique goal, and it does appear as if they are serving something. We know that Order has its own pantheon in the Titans. We know that the Shadowlands had a pantheon. We know that Life most likely has a pantheon. The only two realms that we don't know, or actually we know the Void has one as well, because the Void Lords is an actual canonical thing within World of Warcraft. We also know that there is a Void Lord that attacked what are they called again? Dementius attacked their realm, the Ethereals. So we know that Void Lords are an actual thing, and they are most likely the pantheon of the Void. I think Sargeras killed the pantheon of Disorder. He shut them down, and that's how he was able to imprison the demons in Mordoon, was by shutting them down or killing them.
See, it seems like the whole having a pantheon thing seems very orderly for all of the forces that aren't Order.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me to the thought that these pantheons are like the Xerath Realms. They're sort of the enforcers or the gatekeepers of the Xerath Realms.
Yeah.
And that once a force like the Twisting Nether or the Void broke free, they corrupted these titans, these pantheons, to become their main avatar.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree with that. That I agree with, yeah. The first ones could not possibly comprehend the absolute disorder of the Twisting Nether. They had hoped that by creating beings like the Eternal Ones, beings like the Titans, that they would be able to stand against the corruption of the Twisting Nether. Argus proves that that is not the case. Sargeras was able to use the foul in the Twisting Nether to corrupt Argus absolutely. So Argus proves that the Twisting Nether is so chaotic that no matter how much order you try to introduce into it, it will corrupt that order. There's a good chance that the Xerath realm for disorder is corrupted in and of itself. So it is now no longer spewing out constructs that then get corrupted. It is spewing out demons. It just constantly creates these demonic creatures from within it, and there is literally no way to stop it, which, as Black Waltz just sort of gave me an idea here, which would explain why Zuval wanted to employ domination magic. You see, Sargeras' plan was the complete destruction of all life within the Great Beyond, because this would reset the system. And then he would probably, after destroying all of the life, he would then lead the Pantheon to destroy all of the Xerath Realms as well, to ensure that all of these gods disappear, so that life can finally be created as it was naturally meant to be created. So Zuval, on the other hand, by employing domination magic, he was hoping that he could force all of these Xerath Realms to bend to his will. So that instead of trying to reason with the Void Lords, he would simply bring them under his control. That's why the domination magic. At least that would be my read on it.
Well, also, that leads me to thinking, like, Sargeras' plan to just wipe them out would only work if there was a finite force to fight. But if we're talking about a system of these realms and these natural forces that are corruptible or imprisoned, it would be impossible to completely stamp them out. They would just keep pumping out new soldiers. You would have to be able to recreate or reestablish the Xerath locks, which presumably someone on a Titan level can never do.
Yeah.
So the only solution there would then be to simply dominate what's there, so you don't have a fight.
Yeah, that I read that exactly the same way. I agree with you. All right. Is that Stella? Did you have anything else that you wanted to ask, or was that the extent of your question?
For now, that's it. I kind of was thinking about how to justify maybe Elune being an actual Void Lord or some part of the Void, but I need to work on that a bit.
All right. Well, I'm back every week, so very happy to have you here. I have to go anyways now because we have the Patreon podcast in what should have been an hour and 25 minutes ago. So
Thank you so much for your time. It's always great hearing the speculation and the lore. Honestly, it almost feels better than the game's lore itself.
Oh, I'm very honored to hear that, but if it wasn't for the game's lore, we wouldn't have anything to talk about. And I do think Dragonflight is doing a phenomenal job of just giving us so much more to speculate on and talk about. So I really appreciate you. And thanks for the question, Stella.
Have a good one.
You too. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I really hope that you guys enjoyed the Q&A. Every week they seem to get longer, so I'm assuming in about 2 or 3 months from now there'll be like a good 12-hour stream of Q&A, because they really do appear to just be getting longer and longer.